So you have a quite long history with 3D and other digital creation areas, and throughout your career, you've used a bunch of different tools, like for specific tasks in the pipeline. And I'd like to talk with you about the experience you had with those tools, the pros and cons of some of them, and the challenges and benefits of learning and adapting new softwares. And yes, Blender is on my mind here, okay. but not exclusively. So, am I correct that your first 3D DCC of choice was Lightwave?
Yep. That's what we were taught in university. So that's what I kind of stuck with for the longest time.
So that's why you did choose it, right? The course in your uni.
Yeah.
And why did you finally pick Blender instead?
I guess the lack of development on Lightwave 3D's front, and uncertainty as to its future. Mm-hmm. And I started with Blender by using it just as a GPU renderer, and kept bringing projects across, and it's like, oh my god, I can render in full HD in under an hour or whatever, and being massively impressed, and then having to slowly adopt it also for working with clients on interactive projects. So they had like a development team, and they would use Blender mainly because I guess it's free, and because it had a good GLTF exporter. So whenever we would put together real-time projects for various different channels, Blender would be the package of choice. So ultimately I would still be tweaking things in Blender. Then I started to like it, and I think I picked it up probably about 3 years ago, and since then, it's been brilliant. Everything's been fantastic. It's just amazing. I can't believe it exists. You know what I mean?
In terms of the speed of rendering that you mentioned that you were impressed by. So right now with the Cycles X rewrite, I think it's even more mind-blowing, right? On that.
Yeah, absolutely.
On that side of things. And there's one nice thing coming to the next version, I think, the caustics.
Oh, really?
For 3.1, there's like a proper caustics added. Like not just like some kind of caustics, it like looks finally like a proper caustics rendering solution.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was kind of under the impression that caustics required this bi-directional path tracing. That only things like...
Yeah, I'm not sure how they really implemented that. Right now, as far as I saw, it was like you have to set up light as an emitter of caustics, and an object to cast caustics. So like the glass object that's all metal, and then an object that receives those. So it's kind of like a properly a little bit of a workaround hack than a full spectrum, caustics for everything solution. But I think you don't really need that.
Yeah.
No, I suppose not.
For anything, like if you want caustics, that's mostly for some specific scenarios. Yeah, right?
I'm just thinking of scenarios now where you just have lots of glass under the water or something like that. Like push to the limit.
Argvis people doing those swimming pool scenes. They are just champagne.
Yeah. Just absolutely. Or pushing it to breaking point.
Yeah, jewelry visualizing as well. Right? As well.
Yeah, diamond encrusted champagne glasses underwater.
Right. So that's the bright side of things with Blender. But I wanted to ask, what are the areas of Blender that give you the most pain? And I mean that those moments when you pray to the Blender gods that they fix it, improve it in the next release.
Yeah, something that another software would probably be like something like Maya or 3ds Max or something could do in a click that Blender just can't do yet.
I do really wish that the texture nodes were a thing, like which have sort of fallen by the wayside, because I still really like to use the modifiers for displacement and stuff like that. And it feels like if I could create a node group of textures to drive that real-time displacement, that would be brilliant. I know you can do a lot now with geometry nodes, but still basically building your own procedural textures would be amazing. And that I think is probably, it feels like it is coming, or there's been talk of it at least. And the other thing, I suppose, is modeling, but that's probably just down to my user error. I just recall being able to model stuff really, really quickly in Lightwave. Being able to, it just felt, it probably almost certainly is me then. You know, it felt more natural to me at the time. You know, I'd just be able to like bevel and extrude stuff much faster, and I think it's just probably learning the tools that I need to more frequently in Blender. But everything else is absolutely amazing, you know. And I bought ZBrush not too long before I started adopting Blender, and I soon realized that I just don't really need to use ZBrush anymore. I bought the Quad Remesher tool, which I think is based on the same Z remesher in ZBrush. And that was the last thing I kind of needed. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool. I don't really need ZBrush anymore. This is brilliant.
So probably you're not into that, you know, super high fidelity, you know, sculpts of realistic human faces or things like that.
No, I've never really gone down and modeled the individual pores and stuff. So
the recent course by Ken Trammell, this human course,
that looks amazing,
pretty awesome and amazing. But he really like points out some places where like he hits like the limitations of Blender. Like he's running on the very edge of Blender's capabilities, and that's where all the ZBrush users are kind of like, ooh, that's just a daily thing for us, right? It's just working with us. But hopefully for Blender, the future looks bright if they keep on developing it.
Yeah, you mentioned
it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, you mentioned like paying for, you know, software like ZBrush and stuff. Like, since you started a new studio, do you ever get that feeling, or I guess the pressure of like, oh, I guess I have to buy a studio license because I'm running a studio now, or a company now, like, or this is because you also mentioned earlier that, you know, starting out as a business, you were kind of like, oh, I kind of want to keep everything free and lower down the expenses as much as possible. So like, what are your thoughts on that? Did you ever get that feeling of like, maybe I need to start paying for like the big boy softwares just because that's like what, you know, is expected of like a studio or a startup company?
We absolutely did. Everything we used was completely legitimate. At the time, the main tools were Lightwave 3D and the Adobe Creation Suite, and then any other kind of additions and plugins that go along with it. Just because at the time it was very easy to have those offset those expenses on jobs and stuff like that. And I mean, I do feel, because I give personally to the Blender Foundation and stuff, but then I keep on thinking like, I should definitely give more, you know, because I feel like it's been such a handy tool. And just how it's sort of set up and how accessible it is fantastic. I think the only thing I'd wish, because a lot of I'm trying to convert everyone I know to Blender as well, just purely for selfish reasons, because I want to be able to like hire them on jobs and stuff. Anyway, I'm sort of deviating from the original question.
It's okay.
But I think ultimately, like, if it feels like if you're running a company that has so much turnover, then it's a very easy decision to buy the software, unless, I suppose, of course, it is Maya or Max, which can get pretty expensive. The guy I shared an office space with is forking out a small fortune for, I think, 5 or 6 3ds Max seats. But yeah, so I'm happy that it's not that much. And for the longest time, Lightwave 3D was actually a pretty good deal. I think it was only like £1,000 or like $1,000, sorry, and then a couple of hundred after that to upgrade every year.
Yeah, and aside from 3D work, you also do photography and some video shooting, right? So do you find these benefiting your 3D artist's abilities? And if so, how?
Yeah, the first company, a group of 4 of us started before this current company, was primarily a film company. So we joined another 2 guys to offer more kind of motion graphics and CG and VFX services into the mix, but it involved a lot of film work and a lot of sort of promo stuff. And I love taking photography. I love photos in general. I was absolutely gobsmacked when the Canon 5D Mark II came out. I was in love with that camera. I was like, oh my god, this looks like a film. I would
in my hand.
In my yeah, exactly. Well, at the time, yeah. You know, I'd just be like, look how ridiculously shallow this depth of field is. That must mean it's brilliant.
The future is here.
Yeah, I was deliriously happy with that. And then, you know, I would go out for photo walks, and like I had a lot of friends who were into photography as well. And I felt like, yeah, it does, like, if you go out and take photos, or as I like to do, just sort of do, I guess, little cinematic shorts, but, you know, just go traveling to play, what do they call it, like travel vlog type things, but little travel films. I think that feeds massively back into CG work when it comes to just layout work, camera, lighting, all that kind of stuff. That's I felt a huge benefit, particularly if you're going for a kind of realistic thing. I know a lot of people that would never change the focal length of the camera on a job. It'd just be like everything would be at 24 millimeters all the time. And just be like, oh yeah, but then, you know, if you go to 135, then you get this really nice compressed look and blah 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 blah. Things that you might not necessarily pick up on unless you are into photography or film work.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, sometimes you feel like doing dioramas or stuff, or like, you know, weird, super, like from an alien perspective, like a tiny Earth. Like, there's a lot of things that I feel like a lot of artists recently are like, oh, I have the latest software, but then you compare them to people who know how, you know, other stuff works, like photography and color grading and compositing, where it's like, oh wait, there's a little bit of trick that we know that you guys don't with your flashy toys. I think it's something that I don't know if you watch Corridor Crew on YouTube. Yeah, where they had this video where they try to recreate like this Terminator scene where the guy goes to the jail bar cell. Yeah. And even with like the most modern technology, all the photogrammetry and all that, they still couldn't keep up with like what they had 20 years ago in terms of like VFX. I was like
30. I think it was 30 years ago. It's like early 90s, right?
Yeah.
Terminator 2. Yeah.
I love that film. It's got to be one of my favorite films.
Yeah, and you scratched the area of color grading. Like I've had my own like little aha moments discovering compositing in Blender a few years ago. Like starting out with 3D, just from that modeling and just rendering perspective, and not really breaking up the project into layers. And I found that this part, like color grading, compositing, and these are like super powerful tools that are sometimes overlooked and combined with 3D. So I'm sure that you are doing like a lot of VFX and stuff like that. So you must be using these tools for your work. And I wanted to ask, what softwares do you use for that, and why these tools?
Yeah, not a huge amount. Mainly, I'll try and get everything into the beauty pass, normally because there's just not enough time for or particularly recently with file management and stuff, and working with people remotely, it's quite difficult to use, say, massive multi-EXR sequences without there being quite severe bottlenecking. And I tend to on certain projects, just work out exactly what passes are needed, and then just do either PNG sequences or like compressed EXR sequences. And normally it would just be things like, like just a beauty pass, a depth map, and maybe a few matte ID type passes. Tools wise, it's all pretty much the Adobe Creative Suite, because that's what a lot of the production companies we work with use. I really like using DaVinci Resolve, particularly for grading stuff. I think it just feels right. The only reason I don't use it more often is because of how it stores stuff database wise, like how your projects are all database based. Because I feel like I'm never at one computer at one time, and so I just want to have everything on a shared drive that I have or a cloud kind of share that I have access to, and is project file based. I'm sure there is a way to do it. I'm sure there's a workaround. I haven't sort of fully investigated it properly.
I think it in the studio version there's some kind of a solution for setting up a server with the database.
Yeah, maybe I just need to look into it more, I suppose.
Okay, so regarding the tools and skills, maybe one final question would be: is there some kind of a tool or skill that you wish you had, and maybe perhaps you're planning to master in the future? Something that you wanted to learn always and haven't had the time yet.
At the moment, I think it's audio production. It's something that I've been doing more and more. Usually, whenever I put a cost together, there would always be one assumption, and that would be sound design is not included. There's no audio supply for this. So I have to get another company involved. But recently, I don't know, I've just been getting into it more, even like composing music and stuff. And I'd love to have that ability, to be able to like create my own scores and stuff like that. And that would be fantastic. So yeah, I'm getting there. And I'm mainly using Adobe Audition, which feels nice. So yeah, that's what I would love to be able to be good at right away, but obviously it takes a lot of time investment.
You kind of want to be like I guess Mick Gordon, like the guy who was behind the Doom soundtrack. All these, like they were like, oh no, we don't want you to use like rock metal, we're not gonna use rock metal, and he was like, nah, I'm gonna make it rock. So I guess it's the inner creative control, like, oh, I want to do this, I can do this, I have the power to do this, like.
Because whenever I see, like, I'll follow an artist or something and I'll see an amazing sequence of animation, I'll think like, why is that so good? And then it's normally because it's just accompanied by an amazing score, or like punctuated by perfect sound design, sort of. I think that's why you're probably aware of Chris Jones. He's does amazing human stuff.
Humans,
and he did a short a long time ago as well, and that was all in Lightwave. Well, he's done a lot of shorts actually, but he's like an amazing composer as well, and just having that full control over it must feel amazing. So yeah, I'd love to have that ability.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of movies are like nothing without good audio. Like what's Christopher Nolan film without Hans Zimmer in the background being bomb, or like exactly, Star Wars without John Williams, and
regarding this course, you are doing like totally virtual instruments, or do you play something like on the side, like some instrument, or just virtual VST plugins or whatever the software provides?
I mean, I learned excuse me, I learned how to play piano and guitar a tiny bit, to the point where I could annoy people, but that's about it. But I liked playing around with virtual instruments and stuff as well, and I recently invested in some nice sort of orchestral VSTIs, and I'm like doing massive string sections and horn sections, going, oh, this is brilliant. just like
you get to be this
a wall of
conductor.
sound that's probably horrendous, but I'm well into it.
We've got a lovely cat there, in the background. So,
Oh yeah, featured kitty.
yeah, he looks exactly like this kitten from Blender Kit that they had.
Oh yeah,
the mascot. Great. Yeah, I asked about the instrument because I'm a guitar player myself.
Okay.
Recently, I tried to learn a little bit of piano. Really, really basic stuff, but it's piano. I think it's the go-to instrument if you want to compose something. You've got 10 fingers, 10 sounds at the same time, so full control over.
How
harmonics.
are you going about learning it? Are you going the very traditional route? Or are you sort of...
No, I think I'm quite, I learned guitar in a very untraditional way most of the time, like learning songs that I liked. And, I used to play in a band back in the days. So guitar is kind of, I'm kind of in control of the guitar, but piano, I just pick up a song that I want to learn. I check the chord progression, and then I'm trying to just figure it out, like by the feeling of it. And I'm thinking that, maybe this is not a perfect way of learning the technicals, but I always kind of like, I try to trust my gut feeling about music, right? So just go with the flow. And I think it kind of pays off, you have to have that intuition, so to speak. Like sometimes it's the same with 3D artwork. You just got to trust your feelings about how things should be done.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, for me learning the piano, that was a massive blocker where I would go in and, someone would say, oh yeah, this is the major scale, this is this minor scale, you do this with your fingers. And the whole time I was thinking, why? This is horrible. Like, why am I doing any of this? And, learning sheet music, not that I've retained any of it, but I just felt like it was completely pointless because I never wanted to play other people's music. I felt like I just want to
make your own,
make something by myself and have that thing be something I've created. And so I hated it. I really didn't like it.
So I guess you wouldn't have enjoyed like someone giving you like a chord sheet or something, like, oh, here's Bach, play it. Not your thing.
Yeah, no way. No, it's just
I think keeping that that curious mind and that fun part of learning is really like it's crucial because it keeps you motivated. It keeps you, just immersing in that process. Like it gives you that boost. It's like you get into the Blender or whatever software and you find these new things, and it gets you excited that you can achieve something, play around, change it, and the same is with music, right? And finally find something that's like moving you and and kind of guiding you.
That experimental nature, I think, is super rewarding as well. Because you can uncover things that perhaps people haven't really looked into before. Because if someone just says like, this is exactly how it's done and you should do it like this all the time, I don't know, it feels way less rewarding than like, oh my God, I've just uncovered this amazing thing that will save me hours of time. And has anybody else looked at this? Oh my God, not many people have found this out. I'm going to, maybe put a YouTube video together about it.
Yeah, I guess it's that whole thing where, there are, I guess the older ancient Blender tutorials were like, oh, set this setting to 0.0025 and set the X to 0.5. Then you're typing in the numbers, you got like the same exact result. And then now you're going to do your own thing and you're like, oh crap, I don't know how to do my own thing. I only know how to put the numbers that this guy said.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you don't have that sort of yearn to find out stuff by yourself, it doesn't feel like you're gonna have your own unique, I guess you be able to produce your own unique content because it's just gonna mirror everybody else's, which is which is fine, I suppose.
Yeah,